World Health Organization has temporarily halted global trials of hydroxychloroquine. Chloroquine, after a study showed that hospitalized coronavirus patients taking the drugs may have a higher mortality rate. The decision to cancel the trial comes after China's foreign minister Wang Yi accuses the United States of possibly bringing the two countries to a, quote, new Cold War and to stop wasting our time in the coronavirus battle. What can we make of this halt? China's accusations. Joining us now to discuss, John Sitilides, geopolitical strategist. Sam Sorbo's back, author, actress, and homeschooling advocate. Governor Scott Walker, former governor of Wisconsin. Good to see all of you on the program today. John, I'll start with you. I'd love to hear you weigh in on this.
Well, unfortunately, I think the reality is that China declared a Cold War against the United States and maybe the advanced industrial world back in 2015 with the declaration of the Made in China 2025 strategy to utterly dominate all of the major breakthrough technologies by 2025. Artificial intelligence, robotics, semiconductors, machine learning, and the like. They have engaged in a very militaristic and aggressive program in the South China Sea to strip away the freedom of navigation in international waterways in one of the most important waterways in the entire world through which a third of international commerce traverses. And they've already been waging war against a number of U.S. allies and partners in the region, including Taiwan, including Japan. Now we see forces massed on the Indian border and, of course, the stripping of human rights in Hong Kong.
Sam, you know, even kind of making this a bigger topic here, it was also called by the same diplomat here a political virus for trying to figure out exactly how this virus came to be, where it started, et cetera. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's funny because I wrote a piece in the Epoch Times that there is a virus, and it's not necessarily the coronavirus, it's the virus of communism. So when I read that he called it a political virus, in a certain sense, he's not wrong. There is the virus of communism that has infected in this nation as well, that we need to defend against. And what we're seeing from the Chinese right now is a little bit of subterfuge, and I think we could call it maybe gaslighting. We're not doing anything against you. We just allowed the virus to escape and infect the entire world while we were telling you, oh, there's no virus, don't worry about it. And it doesn't have human-to-human contact. And it came from bats, and it came from here, or it came from there. There's so much lying going on. Why would we take them at their word right now when they're saying things like China and the United States stand to gain from cooperation and lose from confrontation? They're the ones who stand to lose from confrontation. And I think it's really phenomenal that this was the focus of the Trump campaign when he first campaigned for office. And now he has an opportunity to set the record straight with China. We are seeing the gloves coming off. China is a dangerous adversary, and we shouldn't be lulled into complacency with their fancy, pretty talk.
Governor, to Sam's point, you have seen China's stance publicly change.
Well, there's no doubt about it. And I think if you look back to my generation, thinking about coming of age in the 80s, we saw the Soviet Union being the evil empire. We saw ultimately, thankfully, through Reagan's leadership, the fall of communism, at least in Eastern Europe and in the Soviet Union. We see that now reemerging in China. It was always there, or at least always for many, many years. It's been in China with the Chinese Communist Party, but with Xi Jinping, we see that starting out early on, trying to appeal to the West, looking a little bit like a Boris Yeltsin, and now the firm grip, which we see in Hong Kong. But we see why President Trump was so right when he pushed back, not just on trade, but thinking about had he not early on called for a ban for people coming in from China, had he not pushed back. If we'd followed what this president has been arguing for, President Trump, since the day he was elected, we'd be in a much better position. And we need to reassess that because it's not just about trade. Think of the pharmaceuticals, think of the other things that are produced largely off-site, offshore for the United States. We need to bring that back home, not just for the jobs, but for our long-term safety.
Yeah, and that is what's happening little by little, Sam. We see that pulling back the dependency on China, and we're learning a lot more of just how dependent we really are on China. Will this have a lasting impact with our relationship with China, Sam?
Well, I certainly hope so. I'm heartened because of his recent announcements about Huawei. To me, Huawei represents a Trojan horse. And so if we give over our 5G to the Communist Party, and this is what we have to recognize, is that we are not dealing with the Chinese people here. We're dealing entirely with the Communist Party, which controls everything. And so once you recognize that, and you have to understand that the communists hate democracy, the darkness hates the light, and so the agenda here is to destroy this nation ultimately because of the freedoms that we enjoy here. And if you look at the behavior of the communist nation against other nations, the Communist Party against their own nation, the imprisonment of people, the Falun Gong, we have to understand that their values are not our values. And so I'm heartened. I think that this ought to revamp our relationship with China in a substantial way. And there's precedent for it. And there's also a great reason for it, because we need to get this economy back on track. And the first thing we have to do is bring back our manufacturing jobs, bring back the jobs to the United States that will help us recover faster. And let's not mince words. Why are we in this predicament? Because of the CCP.
And we'll leave it right there. John Sitilides, geopolitical strategist. Thank you, sir. Sam, Governor Walker, please stick around.